this is Dan Ferrisi, Editor-in-Chief of Commercial Integrator, here at the HDBaseT Alliance booth at InfoComm 2023, talking about a really important topic, sustainability. It's important not only for commercial AV, of course, but also for the world at large. That's why we brought together a panel of recognized experts who really know this topic inside and out and are leaders in bringing about a more sustainable future. They include Daniel Shwartzberg from the HDBaseT Alliance, Ray Kent from DLR Group, and Kelly Perkins from SAVE. Thank you so much, one and all, for being here today. The topic I want to start with is why sustainability is so important. I think for a lot of us it is self-evident, but for those who are saying, why should this be top of mind? Why should this enter my consciousness in all ways, large and small? What answer would you give about why it is so critical?
I can start. So sustainability is so important because we have to have a planet to live on, and our industry, as small as we think it may be, contributes to carbon emissions because our entire industry is based on obsolescence of products. So it's so important that we take this really seriously and that we start to actually do something about it as an industry. Anybody else?
I think you kind of summarized it all really beautifully. And as you say, it is a small industry, but it's surprisingly large in how much its footprint is from many, many different aspects. And the obsolescence, if you could get rid of that, then I think it takes a fairly large step in the process of making it a more sustainable industry.
Well, what I would add to that is, the resources that we have to make all the products that are here on this floor are finite, right? And we're going to get to a point where those resources don't exist anymore. We've already seen the chip shortage and the silica shortage. That's just going to continue down that path, and then all of this won't be here because we won't have any raw materials left to make it, along with polluting the earth and polluting the air and polluting the water and all that other stuff. So sustainability means more than just the sort of green mentality. It means being able to carry things forward in perpetuity, and we have to keep that in mind as well.
We absolutely do, and I want to talk to you a little bit, Kelly, about SAVE. I know you're a board member of SAVE, one of the leaders of SAVE, along with Christina DeBono and so many others. It's such a forward-thinking organization, really the only organization I know of in the AV industry that is dedicated solely to sustainability, the Sustainable Development Goals. Talk a little bit about Save a Second Life, talk a little bit about certification, and then we can generalize those lessons more broadly to how we can be leaders in sustainability.
Okay. So Save AV, sustainability in AV, really transpired because Christina DeBono, our founder of Save and owner of ClearTech out in California, she's been in systemic organizing for like 40 years or something, and just started to do some research on what the AV industry was doing to solve some of these problems. And I think it was like 6 to 9 months of her and her team doing this research, and they really came up with nothing, right? There was nothing, there were no government programs, there were no, initiatives or programs in our industry. And I think it just she's like, oh my gosh, we have to do something, right? And I think, so she and a couple of her team members reached out to a couple other people, myself, Debbie Williamson of Tempest Technologies, and 2 other gentlemen who work at a marketing agency, and said, guys, would you be interested in joining this organization? We need help. We need to make a difference. We need to start doing something. So that's how SAVE transpired. And really, again, what SAVE, the approach that Christina and our team is taking is really systemic, making systemic change from the ground up. So they took a note from the UN, and we've aligned ourselves with the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. So we've taken what's already been put into place across the globe, and other countries are following this and trying to achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, which is everything from ending poverty to having clean water to goal number 12, which is really, it's recycling, it's repurposing equipment, it's, sourcing sustainable products and building sustainable products. So that really hits hard in our industry because we make so many products, right? So that's how that's kind of where we align ourselves with. And the idea, and what I really like about Save and the way that we're doing this is that there's tangible things that we're doing, right? So you mentioned this, the Save a Second Life and the Save certification. And Save a Second Life is an idea where, and it's coming to fruition. I mean, we've only been around we launched at this show last year, so it's been about a year. And it's the idea that we, as an integrator or a manufacturer, or even as an end user, as you decide to have a renovation or update your products, that these products don't just get thrown away. They don't get sent on, a boat and sent over to Accra, Ghana, where we send it's like over 50 million tons of e-waste every year. Like, it's disgusting how much, we throw away. So the idea is that we connect integrators and manufacturers with community organizations across the country in their area where they can potentially repurpose or reuse these products, because there are so many organizations that could use these products, but instead, a lot of the time, we're just dumping it in the trash, right? So that's kind of the Save a Second Life piece. And we partnered with HETMA, which is the Higher Education Technology Managers Alliance, so that schools can also donate to other schools, and integrators can donate to some schools that maybe can't afford brand new, latest cutting edge equipment. So that's still in the works. We haven't, I guess, completely fine-tuned it yet, but we're working on that. So there's more to come there. And then the SAVE certification is really working with organizations across the country, whether you're a manufacturer or integrator. We're doing it with some colleges and universities through HETMA as well. And what that is, it's a one-day workshop where at this point, we've been kind of flying into these organizations, and it's a 3-part workshop. So the first part is just educating your organization, right? What are the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals? What is the history? What's going on, in other countries, and how are they achieving this? And then the second part is when you do like a design thinking workshop. So it's really interactive. Hopefully, you can get at least a group of your team to participate in this, and you start to do a brainstorming of, okay, how can our organization in, our town and our state really, be a part of achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals? And then you distill that down to like maybe 4 or 5 goals that you feel like you can actually make a difference and make an impact with, and you start to create a plan, and you implement this plan within your organization, and it's cool because it gets you involved in your community. You can start to go, okay, well, maybe there's an organization, we work really closely with the Western Service Workers Association, and they have a network through CVSA, which is the Commission on Voluntary Services in Action. So they have a network of like 300 nonprofits across the country, so you can start to connect the dots between some of these organizations and your organization, whether it's donating equipment, whether it's, donating time, whatever that may be. So that, again, that's what I love about SAVE, is that we're actually doing something that's tangible, and it's something that can scale too, which I think is really cool. So
I think everything you said is extremely valuable, and I believe that HDBaseT is actually one step ahead in terms of helping to prevent that waste occurring, because as you say, the amount of stuff that is simply thrown into the garbage every day is frightening, and the numbers you've given are, I've never heard these numbers before, but they've made my stomach turn a little. So HDBaseT actually as a technology really does help to prevent a lot of that waste. That waste may come from excessive amounts of cabling. That waste may come because products don't interoperate. So you want to upgrade something else, you throw away something, because it no longer works together. So as a technology, we're trying to prevent that waste. HDBaseT obviously replaces a lot of different cables with one that can be very long. It can also be cut to size. And that means that, you don't just have waste cable lying around. You can reuse the cable. We also are fully interoperable in terms of the different versions of the specs. So if you have an older product, but you want to upgrade one into a newer product, you don't need to throw away the older product immediately. Not at all. You can keep it, you can get a new one on this side, and therefore we're trying to prevent the sort of waste that you mentioned occurring. It's also a huge ecosystem, Dan, you know this better maybe than anybody, which is manufactured around the world. And so in terms of things like carbon footprint, you don't have to ship something from the other side of the world, you can buy it locally. So I think as a technology, yeah, we're helping, I believe, to prevent some of that waste occurring. Of course, this is not an ideal world we live in, but I think the initiatives that you've described are well overdue and extremely valuable, and I'm sure that they're going to have a great impact moving forward.
If I could add something about Save a Second Life that I think a lot of people just don't even consider is the business case side of it. If you take that used equipment that you're no longer going to be using and you donate it or sell it at a very low cost to an organization that at that point in time might not have the means to buy brand new stuff, what you're really doing is creating a whole new market channel, because eventually those people at that organization are going to move on and might move to a company where they do have agency to buy that new equipment, and they're going to remember those brands that helped them out, when they didn't have the money. Or it could be students, it could be not other nonprofits, things like that. But that sort of brand recognition and keeping that equipment out there in the market stream really does create an opportunity for manufacturers to continue that brand loyalty, start that brand loyalty, make a business case so that when they can afford it, they can upgrade to new things and maybe pass that equipment on to somebody else. And that helps keep that out of that waste stream.
So sustainability can take on so many different permutations. We talked about trying to avoid e-waste, which is, of course, a huge compounding issue. There's also the element of packaging and being mindful of trying to avoid styrofoam and unnecessary packaging. There's also energy usage and trying to make sure that equipment is energy efficient as much as possible. Do you want to talk about some of those other ancillary elements that are all part of the overall message of a more sustainable future and a more sustainable industry where we have the most control?
Well, I think I could start with that. If you look at packaging in particular and the reduction of materials that can't be recycled, there are actually products out there that are actually less expensive than styrofoam that are made from mushrooms and other natural products that protect the equipment a lot more and can be composted, right? So why not use that material? And that's available here in the United States, right, and overseas. So that's just one example. But if you also look at like power supplies or ancillary connectors or things like that, only ship what's really needed. And as a manufacturer, it's not that difficult. Don't just dump a bunch of connectors in there because you're not quite sure. Find out. And if you don't know, ask. It's a simple thing, but that way you're only shipping that, that Euro power connector, the USA power connector that's needed with the product. Otherwise, that stuff just gets dumped in. Just-in-time delivery of product also helps to reduce waste. Having decentralized shipping will help to reduce waste. Using freight over rail helps reduce waste because you actually can move a lot more tonnage over rail than you can over air cargo, and it doesn't pollute the planet as much. So those are just a few of those opportunities that I think that a lot of manufacturers think more about of expediency and think about what's going to happen within the next quarter than the long-term goal of trying to reduce these things. And the overall profitable aspects of these are going to play out from a sustainable standpoint. Again, not just on a green side of sustainable, but from a business sustainability standpoint as well.
And I'll add to that too. I think a lot of it's just an educational issue and challenge, right? Like I didn't know that there was mushroom packaging. I think there's a lot of manufacturers in our industry that would really, and they are actually stepping up and getting involved and learning about these new ways. So I think that's another really big part of SAVE too, is we need to educate people and give them options and give them guidelines and blueprints, so that they can make a difference. Because I think a lot of times you don't know what you don't know.
Right, I think that's what's needed. It's a quantum shift in the thinking, as you say. It's people who don't necessarily know about these new approaches. It's sourcing things locally. Like I say, if I can buy in the same market that the product source, that market has a power supply. And to give your example that is suitable for where it's going, I don't need to throw in additional adapters just in case. So it does require this change in thinking, and let's hope that really that happens very, very soon.
Kelly Perkins, Ray Kent, Daniel Shwartzberg, I want to thank you so much for your leadership, for being part of this panel, and also showing us a way to a better future. It's not just for our well-being, it's our children, it's our grandchildren, it's our planet, and it takes leadership, it takes concerted effort. I want to commend all of you and encourage all of you to continue raising your voice and continue to be leaders. My name is Dan Ferrisi, Editor-in-Chief of Commercial Integrator, here at the HDBaseT Alliance booth at InfoComm 2023. Talking to some of the most influential industry personalities doing some of the most important work we see in the industry today. Thank you so much for joining us.